For a man like Adrian Cole, a self-made millionaire CEO, life was all about speed, precision, and control. He had no time for mistakes, especially not ones that came knocking at his door. So when a young woman appeared at his penthouse years ago, clutching an envelope and whispering that she was carrying his child, he didn't even let her finish. With cold eyes and a colder heart, he shut the door and muttered 2 words that would haunt him forever. Wrong address. She left, alone and broken. Adrian never thought about her again, or so he told himself. He drowned in deals, boardrooms, and luxury, convincing himself he hadn't lost anything. But fate is patient. 5 years later, in a crowded cafe, a little girl with his unmistakable eyes tugged at his sleeve. She smiled sweetly and spoke the word that shattered his world, Daddy. Adrian Cole was a man who didn't make mistakes. At least, that's what he told himself. Every morning began with a routine polished to perfection. A jog at sunrise, a perfectly tailored suit, and a chauffeured car waiting at the curb. His company Cole Enterprises dominated headlines. Investors adored him, rivals feared him, and tabloids called him the man with the golden touch. But beneath the expensive watches and skyscraper offices was a man who had perfected the art of shutting out anything that didn't serve his empire. That included people. That included feelings. It had been 5 years since that night. 5 years since the knock on his door. He remembered it too well. A woman stood trembling in the hallway of his penthouse. Her name was Lila, a soft-spoken artist who had once been part of his whirlwind life. Their connection had been brief but unforgettable for her, at least. She held an envelope in her hand, her eyes swollen with tears. Adrian, she whispered, her voice cracking. I'm pregnant. It's yours. For a moment, he froze. The walls he had built around his heart quivered. He could have let her in. He could have listened. But pride, fear, and arrogance welded together inside him. He smirked, shook his head, and said the 2 words that ended everything. Wrong address. Then he closed the door. The sound of it echoed in his mind for months afterward. But Adrian buried the memory beneath work and wealth. Children didn't fit into his life. He told himself she would move on, that the problem would disappear if he ignored it. And for years, it did, until fate decided otherwise. 5 years later, Adrian walked into a cafe he rarely visited. His assistant had recommended it as low profile for a quick meeting with a potential investor. Dressed in a charcoal suit, phone pressed to his ear. Adrian scanned the room with the impatience of a man who hated waiting. That's when it happened. A tiny tug on his sleeve. He turned sharply, annoyed, but stopped cold. A little girl stood beside him, no more than 5 years old. She wore a yellow dress and held a stuffed bunny with worn ears. But it wasn't her clothes or the toy that stunned him, it was her eyes. Those piercing gray eyes. His eyes. She tilted her head, studying him with childlike curiosity. Then, with a smile so innocent it nearly broke him, she asked, Daddy. The word crashed into Adrian like a thunderbolt. His breath caught, his chest tightened, and for a moment the bustling cafe went silent. He knelt instinctively, staring at her face. Every detail was undeniable, the same sharp chin, the same dimples that only appeared when he smiled, the same eyes that once stared back at him in the mirror of his childhood. Adrian's hands trembled. What did you say? The girl clutched her bunny closer. Mommy said, my daddy's tall, with dark hair. And, you look just like me. She giggled softly. So you must be him. Before Adrian could respond, a voice cut through. The air, Clara, what are you doing? He turned and saw her Lila, the same woman he had shut out 5 years ago. Her hair was longer now, her clothes simpler, but she radiated strength he hadn't noticed before. Her eyes, however, were filled with fury. She rushed over, pulling the child close to her side. Don't talk to him, she hissed. Glaring at Adrian. Adrian stood frozen, his mind spinning. Lila, is she? Yes, Lila snapped, her voice trembling. She's yours. And you don't get to claim her now. The little girl looked between them, confused. Mommy, what's wrong? Is he not daddy? Tears pooled in Lila's eyes. She bent down, brushing her daughter's hair gently. Sweetheart, let's go. Adrian reached out, but stopped himself. For once, he didn't know what to say. His empire had given him control over everything except this moment. His daughter, the child he had denied, stood inches away, and he had no right to her. As Lila walked away, the little girl looked back, her innocent eyes meeting his once more. Adrian's heart cracked wide open. For the first time in years, The man who had everything felt the unbearable weight of what he had lost. That night, in his penthouse, Adrian stared at his reflection. The suits, the skyline, the endless wealth, it all looked hollow. He whispered the word he had once dismissed with arrogance, but this time it was filled with longing, pain, and regret. Daddy. And for the first time in his life, Adrian Cole realized there was something money could never buy back: time with the child he had turned away. Adrian Cole couldn't sleep. For years, he had lived by strict rules: work hard, trust no one, and never look back. But after the cafe encounter, every rule shattered. The image of that little girl Clara haunted him. Her laugh echoed in his penthouse. Her eyes followed him through boardrooms. Every word he spoke in meetings felt empty, meaningless compared to the single word that replayed in his head: Daddy. The next morning, Adrian skipped his meetings for the first time in years. Instead, he sat in his office, staring at the window, lost in thoughts he could no longer escape. He had denied Lila, denied Clara, denied his own heart, and now he realized, more painfully than ever, that money couldn't erase what he had done. But Adrian was not a man who gave up. When he wanted something, he fought for it. And now, for the first time, what he wanted wasn't a company, a contract, or a skyscraper. He wanted his daughter. The first attempt 2 days later, Adrian found himself standing outside Lila's modest apartment building. It wasn't difficult for him to track her down. He had resources, connections, people who could uncover anything. But standing at her doorstep, he realized money couldn't buy forgiveness. He raised his hand to knock, but froze. What would he say? Sorry I abandoned you when you needed me most. Sorry I slammed the door on our child. Before he could decide, the door opened. Lila stood there, holding a bag of groceries. Her eyes widened when she saw him, then immediately narrowed into anger. You, she spat. What are you doing here? Adrian swallowed hard. Lila, I just want to talk. There's nothing to say. She tried to shut the door, but he placed his hand against it. Please, just 5 minutes. Her jaw clenched, but she sighed, and let him in. The apartment was small but warm, filled with drawings and toys. Clara's presence was everywhere: colorful crayons on the table, a stuffed bunny on the couch, a painting taped to the fridge that read "Me and Mommy." Adrian's chest tightened. I didn't know, he began, his voice low. I didn't let myself know. That night, I was afraid. I thought if I ignored it, it would disappear. Lila laughed bitterly. Disappear, Adrian. I carried her for 9 months alone. I raised her alone. While you were signing deals in skyscrapers, I was wondering how I'd pay for diapers. She didn't disappear. She became my whole world. Adrian lowered his head. I was wrong. I've been wrong for 5 years. But when I saw her, I can't erase it. I can't walk away. Again, Lila's eyes glistened, but her voice stayed sharp. You don't get to walk in now and play father. She's not a deal you can close. She's a child. My child. Adrian wanted to argue, but Clara's small voice interrupted. Mommy, who's that? They both turned. Clara stood in the doorway, rubbing her eyes, holding her bunny. When she saw Adrian, her face lit up. It's Daddy, she said proudly, rushing forward. Lila froze. Adrian bent down, his throat tight, as Clara hugged his leg like it was the most natural thing in the world. His hands trembled as he placed them gently on her shoulders. Hi, Clara, he whispered. Her eyes sparkled. Will you come play with me? Lila's face twisted with pain. She wanted to protect her daughter, shield her from disappointment. But Clara's innocent joy was undeniable. With a heavy sigh, she nodded. Just for a little while. The beginning of change that evening, Adrian sat on the floor of Lila's living room, building towers with colorful blocks as Clara laughed beside him. He had negotiated billion-dollar contracts, but nothing felt as important as hearing her giggle when he pretended the blocks were castles. For the first time, Adrian felt human again, a CEO, not a machine, but a father. When Clara finally fell asleep, Adrian turned to Lila. I know I don't deserve her, or you, but I want to try. I want to be here for her, for you, for us. Lila crossed her arms. Words are easy, Adrian. Actions are harder. You broke us once. I won't let you break her. Adrian nodded. Then let me prove it. Not with money. With time, with presence. Her eyes searched his, as if trying to find the truth in a man who had once been nothing but lies. Slowly, she said, we'll see. The road to redemption days turned into weeks. Adrian showed up sometimes, Awkwardly, sometimes clumsily, but always earnestly. He picked Clara up from school, learned how to braid her hair badly, and even attended her school play, sitting proudly in the front row. The world that once worshipped his wealth now felt insignificant compared to the tiny world he shared with his daughter. But redemption wasn't simple. Reporters caught wind of Adrian's visits, snapping photos of the once untouchable CEO carrying crayons and stuffed animals. Investors raised eyebrows. His board questioned his priorities. Adrian didn't care. At night, when Clara fell asleep, Adrian and Lila talked, sometimes about the past, sometimes about the future. Slowly, the ice between them began to melt. One evening, as they stood by the window, Adrian whispered, "The night you came to me, I said wrong address. But the truth is, you were the right address all along. I was too blind to see it." Lila's breath caught. For years, she had hated him. For years, she had survived without him. But now, looking at the man who knelt to tie Clara's shoes, who read her bedtime stories, who had traded his empire for laughter, she saw something she hadn't expected. Change, maybe. Just maybe. Second chances were real. The moment of truth one night. As Clara slept, she murmured in her dreams, "Daddy, don't go." Adrian sat beside her bed, tears streaming down his face. He whispered back, "I'm not going anywhere." And for the first time in his life, Adrian Cole, millionaire CEO, ruthless tycoon, master of deals, finally understood what it meant to truly belong. Not to power, not to money, but to a little girl who had once tugged on his sleeve in a cafe, smiled with his own eyes, and called him daddy. Adrian Cole thought money was everything, but when life confronted him with the one thing he couldn't buy back, time with his daughter, he learned the harshest truth. Regret is the most expensive price of all. His story is a reminder that choices made in moments of pride can echo for years, shaping futures we never imagined. So what would you have done in Adrian's place? Would you have opened the door that night, or turned away like he did? And if someone from your past came back holding a truth you had denied, would you have the courage to face it? Let us know in the comments, because sometimes the stories we tell aren't just fiction. They're mirrors of choices waiting for us tomorrow. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more heart-touching stories that reveal the battles between wealth, pride, love, and second chances.